Today we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and we're going to be looking at some vintage, and I mean Wizards of the Coast vintage sets, my favourite sets, to see what's been going on regarding the single card prices and the graded prices of a lot of these cards. Something a bit different. We're going to be moving away from modern, we're going to be moving away from all the Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet. We're going old school. We're going back to Wizards of the Coast. Let's go. Alright guys, we've got a bit of a different one today. We're going to be taking a look at Team Rocket, okay, Fossil, Jungle, and base set, and we're going to be taking a look at the single card prices. We're going to be looking at sealed product today. That could be for a future video. I don't normally talk about vintage, but I thought, you know what, something a bit different. Let's take a look at cards that I remember from my childhood and see where they are. A lot of them boomed during the pandemic, and a lot of them have fallen tremendously. So we're going to see where they are in 2024 at the raw price and the graded price, and see what's been going on. Let's get into it. Alright, starting things off, we're going base set first edition. We're going straight into it. We're going for the big top dog. This is the one that started it all. Now, base set is very, very expensive. Very hard to get hold of. And I don't know whether or not there was any base set first edition in this country, in the UK. I don't think there was. I think we got like maybe the 4th print or the 5th print or whatever it was. I don't think we got the first edition. Now, I remember having near enough a full set of base set, like a complete master set. I was only missing the Venusaur. There was one kid in school that had it and he would never trade it, and I even offered him a Charizard and a Blastoise holo and he wouldn't take it. What noob, right? What noob. But anyway, I don't have them anymore. I don't have any of my OG collections. I would love to one day have, not necessarily first edition, but one day have some of these old school cards in my collection in a somewhat decent condition. They don't have to be like a PSA 10, but at least one that doesn't look like it's being chewed by someone's dog or left in the washing machine. I don't want any of that sort of stuff, right? So let's take a look at these. I mean, we can see the raw prices. Obviously, with older cards, it's never really accurate of the prices. The price ranges are so skewed because the conditions are so all over the place. Whereas modern cards are a little bit easier to like kind of pinpoint down a value. So take all of these with a massive grain of salt, but this is going down nostalgia. I mean, looking at these, this is amazing. Like one day I'll have the Venusaur. So let's take a look at the Charizard. We've got to look at the big boy. We're not going to look at all of the cards. We're looking at just some of them, right? Look at the prices. Look at the prices. TCG player, $435 for a holo first edition Charizard. It's not that low, right? But you know, it's condition based. It's all condition based. But at least with the PSA prices, we can get a better idea, right? With the PSA prices, we know what their conditions are like because they're good, right? That's why they got the grade. PSA 10, $230,000, 124 of them. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know how much that is potentially dropped. I mean, we look, let's see if we can actually find out what's happened in the last 6 months. I don't think anything's moved. That's because there's so small amount of these. Prices don't really move much, you know, because there's not a lot of them move around. Not a lot of sales are happening, so it's hard to take that data. If out of all the 124 that's out there, if none of those want to sell it, it doesn't move, right? But look at the difference between PSA 10 and PSA 9. Holy smokes. Let's take a look at the Venusaur. Still, one day we'll have this card. One day I will. So it's a little bit more in a PSA 10, but even a PSA 10, we're looking at $12,000 on average. And then the raw price is the raw price. And I mean, I don't really think there's much movement in the PSA 10 similar to the Charizard. I've got a little bit of movement. Maybe there was a sale happened, but it has gone up. But it's nice to see all of these cards. Believe it or not, out of all of these, my favorite from base set, when I was younger, I loved the Nidoking. I don't know why. Nidoking was one of my favorite holos, base set holos I always liked. And now it's the Ninetales. Like, Ninetales is one of my favorites. Ninetales is beautiful. But that Venusaur, I will get it one day. I was going to take a quick look at base set unlimited. This is one I remember. This is one that I had when I was a child. And, you know, a little bit different prices. A bit cheaper, you know what I mean? So let's take a look at the Charizard, base set Charizard. Now, the thing with the base set Charizard is there's a lot of them around, right? You do get people that do base set box breaks here and there, pack openings, wherever you get them in mystery packs and whatever. So this seems to be more and more Charizard holos getting pulled. Everyone they're getting graded is another matter. PSA 10, we have just under 500 in a PSA 10, fetching a nice little cheap price of 15k. Cheap, right? And again, you know, you look at the raw price can be very random because of the value and the condition, sorry, of stuff. So PSA 10, there's been some movements. It's actually been going up. I've recently sold in PSA 10, so that's actually pretty good for this big boy Zard. Look, there's the recently sold 10s. So, you know, it's on the upward tick, which is going pretty well for Charizard. But, you know, Venusaur's in 3rd place. But yeah, this is just nostalgia for me. Maybe I might get a Ninetales. How much is a PSA 10 Ninetales? PSA 10 Ninetales? We're looking at 350. That's not bad, actually. That could be something that I could look again. Right, then we look at Jungle First Edition. Wow, this is a blast from the past. This card can go, right? This one can go. My favorite card. Oh, I don't know what my favorite card was from Jungle. I actually had a Master Set of Jungle. Yes, I did have the Mime and Hollow. I'm trying to think. I actually remember one of my favorite cards, Hollow, that I liked was I really liked the Vileplume. It sounds really random because I'm not a massive fan of Vileplume anyway, but I always liked that Hollow when I was younger, and I just don't. I don't know why. It's so random. It's so random. But we've got the Snorlax is the most expensive card here. Let's see how much it is in a PSA 10. So we're looking, yeah, around about 6k. Holy smokes. Not many in a PSA 10 though. Not many at all. And this is what we're saying, they're so low, you know, to have them. And this is freshly pulled and is in good condition, you know, good printing and no scratches and all this sort of stuff. That's the problem. You get print lines and God knows what else on some of these. So, you know, Snorlax is doing pretty well, holding down the fort right there for Jungle. And of course, you've got the evolutions. For me, the Vaporeon is my overall favourite, but the Flareon art is my favourite. The Flareon art looks beautiful out of the 3 of them. Right, and then we've got normal Jungle, so normal Jungle base. Huge difference in prices. PSA 10 though is still about 3k. Holy smokes for this Snorlax. He is a big boy. He is a big boy. But where's the Vaporeon? Wow, Vaporeon's really far down compared to the others. That's actually quite interesting. Scyther is a nice one as well. I do like Jungle. Right, then we have Fossil. Fossil's one of my favourites. Team Rocket is my overall favourite, but Fossil is close second. I loved Fossil. I enjoyed opening as a kid. Articuno is my favourite all-time Pokemon. Absolutely amazing. Although this isn't, even though it's my favourite, and Gengar's up there, when I was a child, when I was younger, my favourite was Aerodactyl. I absolutely love the Aerodactyl art, and I used to have a Master Set of this. Used to have all of them, and I remember my Dragonite was absolutely butchered. I mean, the poor condition of this now would probably be like a PSA 1 or 2. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. Not first edition, obviously. It was just, you know, regular, but so a lot more of these actually in a PSA 10, more than I expected actually in Fossil first edition. So let's take a look at the PSA 10 price. I'm intrigued. It actually has been going up. It was around 4k and it's gone up to around 5k, but then, you know, not many of them around, and this has actually been graded a lot less. I would add probably like a PSA 2, I think 2 or 3. That's how badly condition my Dragonite was. And Articuno, I would love to have this in a PSA 10 first edition Articuno one day. It would be amazing to have. Has been dropping in price as well, so you never know. We'll be on the hunt for that one. Then we look at Fossil base. One day we could do a Fossil box break in the future. That might be something that could be a possibility. Not first edition, but just a normal one. That could be a possibility. Dragonite, beautiful card, doing pretty well. It's actually on the climb actually in a PSA 10, which is actually nice. Where's Articuno? Articuno's fallen a little bit, but let's see how much it is. So for me, you're looking around about 800. Okay, has actually gone up. That's strange. It was like 350 in a PSA 10. It's actually been going up. Interesting compared to the first edition. But yeah, Gengar's, you know, Gengar Ditto. These are just beautiful cards in the set. This is just so nice. Then we have base set 2. I actually had some of base set 2, but not a huge amount. I don't have any of them anymore, of course, but let's have a look at base set 2 Charizard. So 6,000 in a PSA 10. Wow, that's actually more than I expected in a PSA 10 for base set 2. So it's actually dropped though. It was around 9k, and it has actually 9.5k actually, and it has actually dropped down recently from the recently sold. The one recently sold for 6,000. So that's probably why it has dropped down. You got the Blastoise, the Venusaur, of course. You know, fetching probably decent price tags. I mean, how much is the Blastoise? PSA 10, $73. I find that very hard to believe. Like very, very hard to believe. Especially if a PSA 9 is 261. So I'm not quite too sure what the price is of that one. And then we got the Venusaur, 800. That's a bit more realistic. So 800. This one's actually been going up. So it was around 500, now up to 800 over the last few months. So that's actually pretty interesting. And then we have my all-time favorite set, Team Rocket. I absolutely love Team Rocket. Dark Charizard and Dark Blastoise was some of my favourite cards going. I love this set so much, and yeah, I would love to open this again. It really would be amazing. I mean, yeah, it's not gonna be first edition, of course, but it would be a normal one would be amazing. Charizard, 3.3k. Wow, that's for a first edition. That is pretty impressive. I mean, it might be more than that. Who knows? Don't forget, a lot of these cards have probably dropped in price. You know, over a while. Let's take a look. A PSA 10 recently sold, so we've got some few 10s here. So yeah, around about 3.5, some just below 3k, 2.5 here. So that's probably a lower one. That's probably one of the reasons why it's around that price point. But overall, this card is doing pretty well and very nice. It is, again, one of the holy grail pieces for me to have in my collection would be a PSA 10 first edition Dark Hollow Dark Charizard. So Dark Blastoise as well, a lot less. Nearly half the value has dropped. Really half the value. A lot of these vintage cards, it sounds crazy, but a lot of these vintage hollows, even in PSA 10, are not as much as I would expect. Dark Dragonite, wow. Yeah, this one is, I believe this one's like really difficult to grade in a 10, right? If I remember rightly, a lot of people say it's like really difficult to grade in a 10. Poor Dragonite. And then we're going to look at Team Rocket Unlimited. So, of course, the Dark Charizard Hollow. I would want the Hollow. I wouldn't want the non-Hollow. We're looking around about 1.3k. It's crazy to think that a PSA 10 Dark Charizard Hollow in a PSA 10 is less than the Moonbreon, right? And the Moonbreon's got like nearly 10,000 or 10,000 in a PSA 10. And the Dark Charizard's got like just over 100. Like not less than 200. It's crazy. It's one of the things I've said in the past. I mean, I don't really cover vintage much, but modern, and especially since Sun and Moon, I'm crushing it. It really has. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see that these cards are as lower value than I really anticipated, which is actually quite surprising. So there you have it, guys. There's a little trip down memory lane and looking at some vintage cards to see what they're doing. Some of them have actually been going up. Some of them in the PSA 10 have been going up. Of course, we're going to look over the last 6 months, unless we went to like auctions and we can see auction histories and see how much these have been going for over the past 3-4 years since the pandemic. Now during the pandemic, everything just got absolutely hyped. We saw it in modern, and of course we especially saw it in vintage, with sealed product reaching insane numbers. Things have calmed down a lot. We're not looking at sealed product today, but from what I've heard and from what I've seen, a lot of sealed product has dropped massively in value since the hype of 2020, 2021. I don't really talk about vintage much. It was nice to go back down memory lane and have a look at cards that I used to have in my collection. I do want to grab some that I remember having, and some that I never got, like that Venusaur, that I'll try and get in the future. Those would be like real collection gold pieces for myself in the future. But overall, I mean, I still think modern is king. I know a lot of you guys must be like, you know what, vintage. But when it comes to single card prices, modern is crushing it right now. It's crazy to think like the Moonbreon, and you just move away from the Moonbreon and you look at some of the other cards, even from the Sun and Moon era, and even Scarlet and Violet era, you're starting to see some of these cards have fetch insane prices, even in PSA 10s. Even there's so many of them, their prices are really high. In the future, who knows? One thing that I've always, been told, and I really like this saying, is today's modern is tomorrow's vintage. And I do truly believe that. So that's one thing to look out for. But it's nice to look at memory lane, taking a little trip. Team Rocket's my all-time favourite set. And I really like Fossil. One day we will do a Wizard of the Coast era box break. When the channel grows a little bit larger, when I can actually afford to buy one, without taking out a second mortgage. But yes, it will be something which I will look forward to down the line for us to do. Because it's always nice to enjoy and open up things that I used to remember buying when I was a kid and collecting when I was younger. I don't have any of them now. If I did, they would all be PSA 1s and 2s. They would be absolutely terrible. But it is really nice to see and appreciate some of the artwork, which is very cool. If you made it this far into the video and you've enjoyed it and you want to see more vintage, guys, then make sure to smash that like button and let me know down in the comments what are your thoughts about vintage. Do you collect vintage? Do you just do modern? Would you like me to cover more vintage, whether it might be sealed product or cards? It was nice to something do a little bit different. Take a step away from Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet and Alt Arts and move away from that, and we'll go back 20 odd years and we look at you know, Wizard of the Coast era and some really, really nice old school sets, which are pretty cool. And we can look back at other eras as well in future videos. If you do want to see that, let me know down in the comments. Talking about a trip down memory lane, if you want to see what I have in my collection a while ago, to be honest, it was maybe 2 years ago, then make sure to click the video on the screen. There will be an update for that soon. But that is it from me, guys, in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you guys are legends, and I'll see you in the next one.